Good evening, folks. This is your weekly wake-up call. And so I don't suck up all 10 minutes, here's Dave.
Hello, everybody. So one of the things that I try to do on social media is find good sources. Ron Filipkowski is a fantastic source, and for a couple of reasons. Number one, he has been in government for a while. Number two, he's been on both sides. He was a Republican, and he has switched over to Democrat. Also, he was in office, or he was the vice chair for the 12th Circuit Judicial Nominating Commission, and he resigned, and he posted his letter of resignation to Ron DeSantis on Twitter. Now, most of the time, Ron Filipkowski, he either gives clever responses to some things, like asking why during a hurricane people from the right would say that they blew the roof off of a convention during a hurricane. Yeah, I thought that was cute. But for the most part, he posts facts, he posts videos of actual events, and he posts documents, copies of documents. So he resigned as vice chair because he thought that the COVID response from the governor was reprehensible. And he also criticized the attack on Rebeka Jones, who is now considered a whistleblower. She has been given whistleblower status. So there is someone from Forbes. He is a fraud and digital marketing expert and researcher. His name is Dr. Augustine Fowl, and he wrote an article about and that was back in last year, 2021, in June of 2021, about Rebeka Jones's suspension. And he thought it was odd. There is someone working for Ron DeSantis, his press secretary, or what they call her they call her the rapid response coordinator. Christina Pushaw. She used to work for an ex-Georgian president, not the state of Georgia, but the country of Georgia. So we're talking basically a Russian press secretary. Okay, so
that fits.
Governor Pushaw alleged that Jones wasn't suspended for what she posted to her account, but because she broke a clear rule against buying followers. Okay, and quote unquote, all evidence points to this. And the guy from Forbes, he basically said it doesn't sound right, because there's a ton of fake accounts controlled by bots. This is a pretty, looked at, it's a pretty accepted practice, actually. So he just thought it was odd. But one thing that I noticed too is that Christina Pushaw gave an interview about how she deals with her strategy for defeating quote unquote legacy media activists, or basically her enemies, or anyone who disagrees with Ron DeSantis and her policies. And it's very simple. She has four rules. Number one, treat anybody that disagrees with her as an activist, or basically an enemy. Number two, cut every single one of those people off, whether they be from the press or someone who formerly worked for them, like Ron Filipkowski or Rebeka Jones. Number three, staunchly defend your side. And number four, attack, attack, attack. Never explain, attack, attack, attack. That's what you see with Ron DeSantis.
Yep.
Okay. Ron DeSantis has been criticized, not just by people inside, but by the press, with his response to COVID. And what he basically said was, it's not COVID, it's another respiratory disorder. Well, what are masks gonna, why aren't masks gonna help with that? It's respiratory. Okay. So what was it called, Deb? It was
RSV.
RSV. Yeah, it's RSV. It's not COVID, it's RSV.
Is
So
he a fucking doctor now? Is that what we're led to believe? He's Dr. DeSantis? Actually, he's Dr. Death Santis is what
right. Now, also, there's an article from The Hill. I would look at all of this. There's an article from The Hill that talks about Ron DeSantis celebrating Rebeka Jones being kicked off of Twitter, which I think is very odd because he introduced a bill, which, by the way, was blocked in court and probably going to go to the Supreme Court, that would keep Twitter and other social media companies from blocking politicians from saying what they want on their platforms, which is a clear violation.
It's not odd because Rebeka Jones isn't a politician.
Right.
He's not a Republican politician. So Ron DeSantis is good with that as long as it's a Republican politician espousing his beliefs.
And especially now that she's a Democratic politician running against one of his buddies, Matt Gaetz.
Right.
So we'll get into it a little bit, but what I am saying here is that the Republicans are not about policy. They're about spin. They're about propaganda. And the sooner you figure that out, the better. I woke myself up about Rebeka Jones. I think sometimes her strategy is a little flawed. I think she focuses on herself a little bit, but what else are you going to do? There is a story out there, supposedly, that Matt Gaetz took a picture of her autistic son and made fun of him. Now, I'm going to mention it, but if that is true, that's unconscionable. Okay, there are certain things you don't do unless you're allowed to, and unless you are a Republican right-wing dirtbag. So we're going to be talking about influencers and how information is spun by the Republican Party. And the way that you can combat that is, number one, to vote Democrat, and number two, to do your own research.
Right. Let me just, make one point.
Yeah.
If you are a rational Republican, and I mean by rational Republican, somebody that we can disagree with on policy issues. If you are a rational Republican with an R next to your name, you do not have to vote for this particular version of the Republican Party.
Correct.
There are a lot of people out there not voting, period, on the Republican side, or voting Democrat.
Shapiro against Mastriano, for one.
Yeah. Shapiro, there are a lot of Republican politicians in the state of Pennsylvania terrified of what Doug Mastriano stands for, and they are literally verbally supporting and endorsing Josh Shapiro.
We're at time.
Okay, so do it.
Bye.